so in love with you. Whatever you want to do is alright with me. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new. I want to spend my life with you. Me say, sing, baby, since we've been together, ooh, loving you forever is what I need.
And that note is the note that stops me from ever singing that song. I think if I tried to sing that song, Stephanie would break up with me instantly. So I don't even try. Welcome to my reclaiming of my Tuesday night time slot. That was so rude of Donald Trump last week to go on at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. But I'm back on my usual time slot. Man, it's been very busy the last couple of days, and before I get to everything else, I want to give a shout out to all my new Bengali friends on Twitter. I am so grateful. I really am. I want to thank you for the kind words, for the engagement, for the amazing information. I've spoken to a lot of people here in the USA, and nobody, not a single person, except Joey Meatballs back in December, heard about this. But other than him, nobody has heard about what's going on in Bangladesh. It is not being covered. I have never heard a word about it on mainstream media. And ironically, just yesterday, for the first time, I heard it mentioned on an Israeli TV, a TV show called The Quad, which I, by the way, highly recommend. Anyway, here's the one and only time I've heard mention of what's going on over there.
I think it's just horrifying. The footage reminded me of October 7th. It reminded me of the Hindus being persecuted in Bangladesh. It's Islamists. It's radical Islam. Like, I don't know how the world just forgot that radical Islam.
So yeah, there it was. That's the one mention I've heard anywhere on any TV anywhere. And I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. I watch a very large variety of podcasts. Nobody's covering this. It's heartbreaking. Now I know, we got stuff happening in Ukraine. We have horrors happening in Syria. We have horrors happening in Africa, and of course, what's been going on in Gaza for the last year and a half. But what's happening in Bangladesh is really worthy of your attention. I did an hour-long interview with an amazing Bengali man Sunday morning here. I aired it last night, and there's a link in the description. I highly, highly recommend watching it. Not just because I need the views. I love the views, of course, but what this guy has to say is really, really worth listening to, and I'm really hoping that this is only the beginning of this story being shared and not the end of it. There's so much more to unpack in the story. So a big shout out to all my new Bengali Twitter friends. I certainly did not have that checked on my bingo card. I got a lot to get to today, but I'm going to give a shout out to myself because today is March 11th. And 48 years ago today, I was released from prison. And I got to tell you, I don't recommend finding out. But there was nothing like being released from prison. So I'll never forget walking down Broadway in Brooklyn and Williamsburg, singing The Who's "I'm Free" out loud. People were looking at me, but hey, I was 22 years old and free for the first time in over a year. That is a separate story, a very separate story. I do want to get to it on this podcast. I really do. It's why I started this podcast. I want to tell that story, but so much keeps happening in the news. I keep getting hijacked by the news. The stuff I can't ignore. I just can't. So we're going to get to the other Al Green, the congressman. We're going to get to what's, in my opinion, a major desecration of the legitimate civil rights movement in this country of the 1960s. And so much more. We have some cringe Democrat moments. But speaking of cringe Democrat, I'm anybody who watches this podcast knows that I'm very critical of Democrats, and I am. And partly it's because they deserve it, and partly it's because I think the two-party system has failed, but we at least need a strong opposition party. The Democrats are not that. They are not that. I supported these guys for years. They're not giving us a choice. People keep bitching about Trump. They're bitching about Trump. They're complaining. He's this, he's that. You didn't give us a choice. You really didn't give us a choice. And I have my disagreements with Trump. I will never call that particular body of water anything other than the Gulf of Mexico. I won't even say those words. It's the Gulf of Mexico. So I disagree on that. I think it was very wrong for him to try to call to primary Thomas Massie, who is one of the very few principled members of Congress we have left. And sure, a lot of people don't agree with him, but he's taking a principled stand. And I would hope that the president of the United States would respect that. So yeah, there are things that about him that I'm not thrilled about. He gave an ultimatum to Hamas that he needs to either back up or retract. But he's got a lot of people wondering what's going on, what's happening there. It appears that we're going to have a ceasefire in Ukraine. So I'm loving that. But all in all, with Trump's faults, and there are many, I do not deny his faults, not for 1 second. I grew up hating the guy who was my landlord, or his daddy was my daddy's landlord. And then when I took over the apartment, I kept on paying the Trump family for years, only to have Donald Trump steal my time slot, my 9 o'clock Eastern time slot last year. Okay, I'm over it. It's okay. I'm back. He's not here. It's just us, right? Me and the Blatherverse. I love you guys. All 6 people watching and the few dozen likely to watch later. And there's a rumor, by the way, that Joey Meatballs might be among those watching. He's shy. There was a tease. He almost came back tonight. I almost had Joey Meatballs back tonight, but I'm not going to say he chickened out at the last minute, but he chickened out at the last minute. Don't tell him I said that. Anyway, so I got the agenda, like I said. But anyway, I want to play one little segment, just a 45-second clip of the interview that I did. One great thing about this program using StreamYard, if you push a button, it will AI generate clips from a podcast. So it came up with one that I think applies that I'd like to share. So let me do exactly that. And where did it go? Here we go. Let me share this. And it's this.
Right. So that is one of the big problems. So that is why it is not always advisable to have extreme freedom of speech, because freedom of speech is not the freedom of saying whatever the hell you want. Freedom of speech comes with a bigger responsibility of having a responsible speech. Right. So if there are bad actors, if the bad actors take the opportunity of freedom of speech, and then inside the people, it becomes very difficult for any government to control the situation. So whatever happened in last year, July.
And what happened last year in July was a rumor got out of hand that Hindus were stealing the jobs of Bengalis, and it caused a student uprising. I am paraphrasing. I don't claim to be an expert. This is pretty much what I'm drawing from the conversation I had. But this was, apparently in a third world country like that, rumors become fact really quickly. And even though there was no proof of it, it caused an uprising that had the government overthrown, and the legitimate leader of Bangladesh is in exile in India right now, and it's pretty close to anarchy, and there's a horrible human crisis going on there right now that I'm really, really grateful and honored that I was able to play a small part in bringing it to the attention of some of the American folks here. So anyway, I opened with an Al Green song, and I guess Al Green was exercising his right to free speech. But before I get to Al Green, I want to say something. There's all this trouble in the world right now. The videos coming out of Syria right now, where they have Christians crawling on their hands and knees, getting slapped and whipped and murdered, hunted down in Syria. There's a ceasefire now in Gaza. Hopefully that lasts. Well, there's supposedly a ceasefire. I heard about that on the news as I was coming home. Something about a 30-day ceasefire. We'll find out if that's true. The horrific stuff in Syria, the Gaza, October 7th, everything happening in Africa, everything happening in Bangladesh. I could sit here in the security of my living room and blather into a computer and have a bunch of people listen. And I'm not worried about a bomb being dropped on my roof. I'm not worried about an angry mob breaking down my front door and dragging me out because I'm of Hebrew descent. We have freedoms and securities in this country that way too many people take for granted. And so especially on March 11th, which is my Freedom Day, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for the security and freedom that we have in this country. No, this country's not perfect. No, our current government's far from perfect. Our last government was far from perfect as well. And there's always a flaw, there's always a problem. But let's not be spoiled babies here. Let's appreciate what we have. Let's appreciate the fact that we have a right to have "fuck Trump" written in big bold letters on the back of a T-shirt of a rock and roll drummer and opening for Jefferson Starship on Trump's first inauguration day. I talked about that in previous podcasts. Try that in another country, try that in another country. So anyway, let's get to the other Al Green, and because I know a lot of people who watch this show didn't watch Trump's speech. I know that because Orange Man bad. I know. Yeah, and he doesn't do himself any favors. He says it does a lot of stupid shit. But again, I do think he was our best choice. And this is going to segue into me being highly critical of Democrats. The Democrats should have learned their lesson. How in the world did they lose the presidency with a former Secretary of State running against a game show host? And it's because the Democrats have a high-powered rifle pointed right at their foot, and they keep pulling the trigger. That's why. And they didn't learn a lesson in 2016, and they apparently aren't learning the lesson in 2024. Now, I might agree with Al Green when he shouted out that Trump doesn't have a mandate to cut Medicaid, but I know nothing about Medicaid being cut, not legitimate Medicaid. If they're looking for fraud and abuse and cutting down the Medicaid budget to cut out the fraud and abuse, that's not the same as cutting out Medicaid. Same applies to Medicare and Social Security. Cutting out the fraud, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they plan to cut it, but I certainly have never heard any of that come out of any of their mouths. They plan to actually cut benefits. And if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, if you have receipts, and you could show that the blathering boomer is wrong, it's easy to reach me. Tell me why I'm wrong at UNG714 on Twitter, Ugly Nasty Guy 714. Send me a direct message on Twitter. I check all my messages and I respond to them for the most part. I do. And I want to give a shout out to my troll. I do have a troll. I love reliability. And I know that no matter what I say on this podcast, as evidenced by the dislike I got last night on the podcast, I always get exactly one dislike every time I do a live stream. So I have a couple of people in mind, a couple of old friends of mine that are either not speaking to me at all or on very testy terms. I have a feeling that is going on there and finding my videos and disliking them. And that's fine because I love the attention, even when it's negative. So without further ado, let me stop blathering about it and get to Mr. Al Green. And here we go.
ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant at Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber. Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House.
Well, decorum was not exactly maintained. Congressman Al Green was removed from the facility, and a censure vote happened the next day. And this is where it gets even more interesting. So the next day, Congressman Green was censured by his peers, and here's how that went.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House had come to order. The House had come to order.
So that's the thing now. They sang "We Shall Overcome" as the censure vote was announced. And talk about Jamal Bowman. Jamal Bowman got primaried last summer. And you know what? He cried racism. No, Jamal, you weren't primaried because of racism. You were primaried because you pulled a fire alarm in the Capitol. That's why you got primaried, and for a lot of very strong anti-Semitic statements as well. Al Green was not censured because he's black. I am saying that unequivocally. I'm stating it as fact. Al Green was censured because he disrupted a joint session of Congress, and he was removed. And whether or not you agree with his message, and actually I agree, Trump doesn't have a mandate to cut Medicare. That's what he was shouting about. But as I said before, I don't think there's any intention of cutting Medicare. But this is where the Democrats, if Al Green was righteously correct, if the members of Congress really believed that Al Green standing up and waving his cane and shouting was the right move, then the next step, they should have pulled a page out of Code Pink. And as soon as Al Green was removed from the chamber, Alexandria Ocasio-Steinberg, whatever her name is, should have stood up and started yelling. And when she was removed, Rashida Tlaib should have stood up and started yelling. And when she was removed, Ro Khanna, except Ro Khanna's got too much class to do that. But the point being, if they wanted to make a point, they could have made the point all the way. But instead, this is what happened. And singing "We Shall Overcome" really upsets me. It really bugs me. I came of age in the 60s, and the civil rights movement. "We Shall Overcome" to me is an abolitionist song. It's a civil rights song. It doesn't apply in this case. And the Democrats want to make everything about race. I'm sorry, not everything is about race. Some things are about race. Some things, sure, some things are about race, but not everything's about race. And I'm really sick of it. I'm just sick of this whole Trump can do no right. He said it himself. He said, I can cure the deadliest disease in the world. Most people wouldn't clap. And here's something. So the Democrats just sat there stone-faced the entire joint session, the entire speech. The only time they applauded was when Trump mentioned that we spent $350 billion, that's billion with a B, on Ukraine. They applauded that. Trump made the Pocahontas comment. And again, I don't think, when I first heard Trump say Pocahontas, I thought that was horribly racist. But it's not racist. It's ball busting. Elizabeth Warren's a phony Indian, and he's calling her Pocahontas, out of a sense of irony, not out of a sense of racism. So stop the race baiting. Really, stop the race baiting. Joy Reid wasn't fired because of her race. She was fired because she's horrible. And how horrible do you have to be too much for MSNBC? That could be a song. How horrible do you gotta be to be too much for MS? Okay, no, never mind. I won't get that. That'll probably get edited out at the end. So let me skip to the next topic here, because there was a really, really heartwarming moment that literally brought a tear or two to my eyes. The Democrats sat there. Oops, I don't have the picture, or maybe I do. Let me see if a photo comes up. No, they sat there. If you ever saw the TV show The Leftovers, they sat there like the guilty remnant. Those people that were clad in all white, stone-faced, smoking cigarettes and being silent. That's what the Democrats reminded me of a week ago tonight. And there, there's a time and a place for everything, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. And honestly, I'm pretty tired of the Democrats doing pretty much everything wrong. So let's hear a little bit more of the speech, and here we go.
Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
Check out the look on this kid's face when Trump says what's about to happen. It's worth noting, by the way, this kid's 13 years old, and I think it was 8 years ago he was given 5 months to live because of brain cancer, and he has had multiple brain surgeries. Let's continue.
But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Yeah, did you see how that kid's eyes widened when Trump said those words? This is a really, really sweet moment. Let's get to the end of it. So that was anyway, that was a wonderful, wonderful moment. And of course, the Democrats sat there. They sat. If you saw in the video, the woman next to Dirty Debbie Wasserman Schultz actually clapped. I'm not sure if she was a congressperson or not, but she probably got a good talking to back at the ranch after that. But they're trying to say that Trump used this for politics. No, at a certain point, where people at a certain point, things matter. This is a 13-year-old kid. And whether or not Trump used this for politics, it doesn't matter. It's not about Trump. It's about this kid. It's about this courageous kid who has so far beaten brain cancer. And by the way he came to Trump's attention, or so I'm told. I saw the video. I'm sorry I don't have it now. But there was a video of this kid. I guess he walks around the police uniform all the time. And he was accosted by a bunch of other kids who started making fun of him. Hey, why don't you arrest me? Hey, take me. And he just kind of stood there and held his ground, and he didn't back down from it, but he also didn't confront. It's a sweet kid, and he deserves better. He really does deserve better. Shame on you, Democrats. Shame on you, seriously. And between that and disgracing the civil rights movement of the 60s by singing "We Shall Overcome" because somebody was censured, not because of their race, not because of his race. It's because he misbehaved in a joint session of Congress. And you can't do that, And again, if you're going to do that, do it all the way. Join him, walk out with him. But no, they just sat there. They sat there with those little bingo signs or whatever ping pong paddles they had. And again, they reminded me of the Guilty Remnant, that stone-faced cult from the TV show The Leftovers, which, by the way, I highly recommend. 3 seasons long with a reasonably satisfying ending. No spoilers here. So anyway, but the Democrats do have a message that they want to convey, and I'll get to that. But I got to say, people are coming around. People are starting to come around. Even James Carville is critical. And even all the criticism I lay on the Democrats, I want there to be a strong opposition party. The problem is, as long as the Democrats are run by the current bunch of elite assholes running it, they're never going to be that. They're getting worse and worse. The 2024 election may not have been a mandate to cut Medicaid. I don't believe it was. But it was a mandate. People voted for this. People voted for this kind of change. And the Democrats need to wake up. Even Jimmy Kimmel, these late night TV hosts who have been so completely up with their tongues up the Democrats' butts. Check out what Jimmy Kimmel had to say about the latest video, Choose Your Fighter, put out by some Democrats, and let me see if I can make this actually play.
As the pile of crazy starts to build, a lot of people have been wondering how and when the Democrats are planning to fight back. Well, look out, because we got a plan, and we are launching it on TikTok. Yeah, we're not going to stand back and take it anymore. We're going to fight. What is that supposed to do besides embarrass everyone involved with it.
That was Jimmy Kimmel talking. Jimmy Kimmel, who is one of the most TDS of TDSites. He can't stand Trump. He's even calling out the Democrats. James Carball's calling out the Democrats. Stephen A. Smith is calling out the Democrats. I know that my friends are all in lockstep, and I know, and I hear it all the time. I argue all the time. I'm weary from arguing. Why is it that people want to argue with me about my choices? I don't bother anybody else. You voted for Harris, you voted for Biden, whatever, fine, leave it alone. But somehow they can't handle the fact that I voted for Trump. And I'm not going to be in the closet about it. I did vote for Trump, and I don't like everything he's done. I don't necessarily even like him, although I gotta say, he is pretty funny. He does make me laugh. But anyway, you just saw the Choose Your Fighter video put out by the Democrats. Well, I dare say a lot of my Aloha Ohana people choose this fighter instead.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour. Put in the work, put in the hours, and take what's ours. Like in some more in my veins, my culture banging with strange. I change the game, so what's my motherfucking name? What they gonna get though? Desecration, defamation. If you wanna bring it to the masses, face to face, now we escalating. When I have to but boost the asses, mean on ya. Like a dream when I'm rumbling, you're gonna scream, mama. So bring drama to the king, Brahma. Fight with extreme mana.
All right. So hey, you know what? Pick any two Democrats and we'll do a steel cage handicap match. I'll take Tulsi against any two of the people that were in that video. Anyway, this is the kind of a short show tonight. I didn't have a whole lot prepared. I was really focused on Bangladesh. I want to keep focusing on Bangladesh. I did that special live stream last night where I presented the interview from Sunday morning. I really, again, highly recommend checking it out. There is a link in the description to this video. And I want to once again thank the Bengali community on Twitter for, God, if kind words were a bath, I'd be one clean mofo today, because they really express their appreciation. But I don't want their appreciation as much as I want this to be okay somehow. There needs to be some kind of the guy interviewed said there is no good outcome. I like to think he was right about everything else, but not about there not being a good outcome. But the first step to resolution is recognition. And so the reason I want to share that is because let's recognize this. People I know who are rather politically aware have heard nothing about what's happening in Bangladesh. Let's change that. The 9 people watching, the few dozen who might watch later, spread the word that this is going on. You might not have the power to change anything, but you are changing something just by keeping this story alive. So there it is there. I want to shout out to my troll. Don't forget to push that dislike button, because no matter what I say, you're going to dislike it. It's a familiar concept. And again, I want there to be a strong opposition party. I don't want to see the Democrats disappear like the Whigs. Then we'll end up in a one-party system with the Republicans in charge, which is really scary. I voted for Trump, and the thought of one-party rule by the Republicans scares the shit out of me. So get your shit together, Democrats. You assholes need me back on your side, because you have no strategy whatsoever. You're on the wrong side of almost every 80-20 issue. I know I'm quoting the news when I say that, but it's true. It's true. They wanted open borders. They want boys in women's sports and so many other things. Start thinking for yourself. And to my friends also, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be in a community. I was in a community for many, many years. I spent the entire decade of the 80s in the Bay Area. And there truly is a hive mind going there. And maybe because I physically moved away, I was able to break away from the thought. And for the most part, it's beautiful thought. The whole, the thing that attracted people to the Bay Area was, summer of love, or, peace, freedom, all that kind of stuff. They've departed from that. When I was there in the 80s, the bumper stickers said, ignore alien orders. And the better one said, question authority. When? Please tell me when did question authority turn into obey? Because that's what you guys are doing. Come on. You're supposed to be the free-thinking idealists. This status quo that you're supporting is suppressing free thought. I can go on, and I have gone on, and I will go on. But I'm winging it right now. I've run out of material to present. I don't think I have. Oh well, I do have one little photo I want to share. One little meme. This is kind of cool. So that kind of says it all. I'm going to leave that up there as the closing thought. In fact, that might be the thumbnail for this video. So a short one today. Happy March 11th to everybody, especially me. Again, I'll never forget how it felt to regain my freedom, and maybe that's part of why I reflect in gratitude for the freedoms I have right now and for the security I have right now. We live in a very stable part of the world, in spite of what's going on college campuses. And I don't even start talking about college campuses. I could do an entire podcast on that, and I have, and I probably will again, but not tonight. I'm pretty tired. Let me unshare my screen and say full screen those 4 words that I say at the end of every one. The boomer has blathered. See you guys next Tuesday.